The packets of lubricant in my grandfather's drawer kept disappearing. When I installed a hidden camera, the person I saw using them left me shaking. My name is Lauren. I'm 23, the girl who brings soup, pays the light bill on time, and keeps the family group chat from exploding. I live in Dayton, Ohio, in my Grandpa Henry's old craftsman house, the one with the creaky stairs that always tell on you. Grandpa raised me after my mom passed. He's 81 now, stubborn as an oak tree and recovering from a hip surgery. I make his oatmeal, sort his pills, and remind him to drink water even when he swears he's not thirsty, not dead. We laugh. We survive. 2 weeks ago, I noticed something I couldn't shake. Grandpa keeps medical supplies in his nightstand, small packets of lubricant the nurse left for catheter changes and skincare. They were sealed, counted, labeled. I counted again, then again. Every third day, a few would be gone. Not misplaced. Gone. Grandpa can't get up at night without me hearing the walker scrape. I heard nothing. Yet the packets kept disappearing like coins sliding down a drain. I told myself I was tired, that I miscounted, that I was being weird. But then I found a torn packet in the trash in the guest bathroom, the one no one uses. The top was ripped straight across, clean as worry. I felt a cold little drop slide down my spine. So I did the thing I never thought I'd do in my grandpa's house. I hid a camera. It wasn't fancy. It looked like an air freshener. I tucked it on the bookshelf across from his nightstand, angled just right. I set it to record from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., when I usually doze on the couch to be close if Grandpa needs me. I left a small lamp on, the kind that makes your room feel safe. Then I waited. I pressed play at noon the next day. On the screen, I watched my own living room sit there, still and harmless. The hallway stayed empty. Then the bedroom came up. The door opened. I watched someone step into my grandpa's room on careful feet, the way people walk in museums. The first face came into view, Vanessa. My stepmother. Her glossy hair was in a low bun. Pearl studs in her ears. She wore the robe she keeps in our hall closet for when I pop by to check on Dad. She didn't see the camera, just went straight to Grandpa's nightstand like she'd done it 100 times. She opened the drawer. She took out the small box of packets. And then another shadow slid into the room behind her. Cole. My boyfriend. He had his baseball cap pulled low like that could hide the shape of his body I knew by heart. He shut the door softly and turned the lock. My throat closed. On the screen, Vanessa laughed without sound, a private laugh I'd never heard in the 2 years she'd been married to my dad. She took a packet, tore the top, handed it to Cole. He took it. He leaned in. The way they touched like they owned the air. The camera caught their hands, their mouths, their heat, right there beside the nightstand where my grandpa keeps his Bible and spare reading glasses. They were using the packets. They were using each other. They were using my trust. The room around me shrank to a pinpoint. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the tablet across the room and watch it shatter like the picture I used to hold of what family means. Instead, I sat perfectly still while my heart beat loud enough to wake the dead. On the screen, Vanessa reached down into the nightstand again. Only this time she didn't take a packet. Her fingers felt along the back panel, popped the thin wood free, and slipped out a tiny bronze key my grandfather keeps taped there, the key to the lockbox under his bed where he hides emergency cash and documents. She held it up. Cole smiled. He kissed her like a promise. I paused the video with my thumb hovering over their faces. My stepmother. My boyfriend. My grandpa's key. I was shaking so hard I had to put the tablet on the couch so I wouldn't drop it. Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe to True Revenge Stories for more shocking stories of betrayal and revenge. For a full minute, I just listened to the house breathe, the fridge humming, the clock clapping the seconds, Grandpa's soft snore drifting down the hall. I pressed play again, because pain does what it wants. It makes you look longer than you should. They finished quietly and fixed the room with careful hands, like nothing had happened. Vanessa placed the box back in the drawer but slipped 2 more packets into the pocket of her robe. Cole wiped the nightstand with a tissue. He tossed it in the guest bathroom trash. Then they left. I sat there with the truth buzzing in my hands. And then I did the most normal thing in the world. I stood up and made lunch for my grandfather. I buttered his toast with the knife that knows our sink. I asked if he wanted jam. He said, strawberry, and cut the toast diagonal. You know, I think straight lines are bossy. We laughed, and I did what I've always done. I served love even while my heart bled. You asked for the story to start at the highest peak and end that intro with a cliffhanger. So here it is. In that video, after Vanessa slipped my grandpa's key into her robe, she looked up and straightened the lamp. The camera lens caught her eyes. For a half second, she squinted like she sensed something wrong in the air. Then she turned away. The key gleamed once before the robe swallowed it. I paused there at the glint of the stolen key, and I knew this wasn't just about cheating. It was about theft. About lines crossed. About the kind of betrayal that makes your stomach go still. That was the cliff's edge. Now let me tell you how we got here, how I ended up living in a house that keeps secrets and loving people who hide behind smiles. My dad married Vanessa 2 years after Mom died. Vanessa is younger than Dad by 12 years, a corporate events planner with perfect nails and eyes that calculate the room. The first time we met, she brought me a candle that smelled like roses and said, "I want to be friends." I wanted to believe her. I was 21, working 2 jobs, and grateful to see my dad laughing again. Cole came 6 months later. We met at a church picnic. He handed me a lemonade and told me he liked my sneakers. He was warm, easy, quick to carry heavy boxes when Grandpa needed help. He'd sit with Grandpa for an hour while I ran to the pharmacy, listening to war stories and nodding like words mattered. Everything about him looked like safety. He told me I was strong. He kissed me on the forehead at red lights. I let the little boat of my heart drift toward him. Then Grandpa fell. Hard. He broke his hip in the kitchen getting a glass of milk at 2 a.m. The surgery went well, but recovery wanted a price. We brought him home because he said hospitals smell like old pennies. I set up the downstairs guest room as his bedroom. I moved onto the couch so I could hear him at night. Nurses came twice a week, the home health aide 3 times, but most of it was me. I learned small brave things, how to slide a sock onto a swollen foot, how to steady a man who used to lift me with one arm, how to keep my voice cheerful when the worry behind it felt like a storm. That's when Vanessa started helping. She'd pop in with grocery bags and glossy sympathy, kissing the air beside Grandpa's cheek. "You poor thing," she'd say to me, and leave a takeout container labeled "for later" with a sticky note about self-care. Dad would say, "Isn't she great?" And I'd nod because arguing tired costs more than quiet. Cole came by after work, dropping off meals and rubbing my sore shoulders for a minute or two before heading home to study for his exam or help his roommate. He couldn't stay over because he had early mornings. He couldn't text long because his battery was always dying. I believed him because love gives discounts it should charge full price for. The packets started vanishing in the second week of Grandpa's recovery. At first, I chalked it up to the visiting nurse using more than I realized. But she kept careful records, and her numbers didn't match what I counted. The aide never went near the nightstand. Grandpa said he didn't touch anything there except his glasses. One night, I heard soft footsteps and a door sigh. I sat up, held my breath, and heard nothing else. The next morning, 2 more packets were gone. My skin crawled. I told Dad. He hugged me. "Sweetheart, you're exhausted. We'll get a camera if it makes you feel better." He meant a big visible one, the kind you announce so everyone behaves. I wanted the truth, not pretend safety. So I bought the small one with my own money and didn't tell anyone. The day after the video, I moved through time like it was syrup. I packed Grandpa's wound care, called the insurance company, answered Vanessa's texts, "Need anything? I can pop by," with "We're fine." I didn't call Cole. I didn't trust my voice. That evening, Dad came over with pizza. Vanessa arrived in a soft oatmeal sweater and hugged me a beat too long. "You look pale," she said, touching my cheek like a mother. I swallowed a laugh that tasted like rust. We ate at the dining room table under the chandelier with 2 burned-out bulbs. Grandpa said the pepperoni tasted like cardboard from 1982. We all laughed, the whole table wobbling with a joy I didn't feel. When I cleared the plates, Vanessa followed me to the kitchen and leaned against the counter. You're doing so much, she said, eyes warm. If you ever need me to sit with Dad overnight, say the word. Her hand grazed my arm, light as a moth's wing. The pocket of her cardigan sagged with something heavy. The key? I hated the thought so much I set it on fire in my mind. I scrubbed a pan too hard and chipped my nail. After they left, I tucked Grandpa in, kissed his forehead, and sat on the couch with the tablet in my lap. I watched the video again, this time pausing on their faces. Cole's eyes half closed like he was somewhere good. Vanessa's mouth curved into that secret smile that never shows up in family photos. I memorized everything against my will. Pain does that. It keeps a record even when your soul begs to forget. Around midnight, the house cooled. I drifted in and out, the way caregivers sleep, one ear open, heart already standing. At 12:43 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. Bedroom camera. I bolted upright, heartbeat treading water. I opened the live feed. The bedroom lamp glowed on the nightstand. The door eased open. A figure slid in, tall, careful. Cole. Behind him, another shadow, Vanessa. She closed the door and turned the lock with a soft click that echoed all the way down the hall and into my bones. They moved like practice thieves. Cole went to the bed and bent down, lifting the dust ruffle. Vanessa pulled the robe belt tight and knelt by the nightstand. Her hand slipped under the mattress, searching for the lockbox. She mouthed something. Cole nodded. He reached for the box. My lungs forgot how to work. I watched, frozen, as my boyfriend and my stepmother worked in sync to pull out the metal lockbox Grandpa keeps under his bed. Vanessa took the little bronze key from her robe pocket. She fitted into the lock. Her face tilted just enough that the lamp lit her eyes bright as wet coins. She turned the key. It didn't open. She frowned. Tried again. Shook the box and pressed her ear to the metal like it could give her the code. Cole's mouth moved fast. He checked the nightstand drawer, the back panel, the tape. Vanessa's fingers started to tremble. She looked toward the bookshelf. For one long second, her gaze hovered over the air freshener. I didn't breathe. She looked away. She put the key back in her pocket and motioned to Cole. He slid the lockbox back and lowered the dust ruffle with a tenderness that made me sick. They turned to the nightstand, opened the drawer, and took 3 more packets, like dessert after a failed dinner. Then Vanessa leaned on the bed frame to stand and her phone slipped from her pocket, clacking against the wooden floor. She cursed, the first sound the camera picked clearly. Cole shushed her, frantic. They froze. The house held its breath with me. A minute ticked by like a hammer tapping metal. Finally, Vanessa picked up her phone and checked the screen. She tapped fast, face pale now, all the fun drained out. Then she did something small that stole the last bit of my balance. She lifted my grandpa's Bible from the nightstand and laid her palm on it like she was promising something to herself, not to God. She closed her eyes for 1 second, then opened them and put the Bible back exactly where it was. They left as quietly as they came. I sat there, heat and cold trading places in my body. The next morning, I hid the tablet under a stack of old catalogs. I made Grandpa pancakes and cut them into small squares. He watched me closely. "You're chopping like a lumberjack today," he said. "What's wrong?" I shook my head and kissed his knuckles. "Nothing, Pop." Vanessa texted that afternoon, "Thinking of you too. I'll swing by tonight with dinner." I stared at her message until the text bubble disappeared. I needed a plan. Not just for revenge. For proof. For protection. For keeping Grandpa safe while the people closest to us walked in and out like they owned the place. I needed to move like quiet thunder. By the way, where are you watching from? Drop your city or state in the comments. I'd love to know how far these stories travel. I called the nurse and asked if we could schedule a surprise supply audit to keep me organized. She said of course. I asked Grandpa if I could move a heavy trunk from the attic to the guest room for more storage. He waved his hand. "Do what you need, kiddo." That evening, Dad stopped by on his way home from work. Vanessa came with him, cheeks pink from the cold, carrying a casserole dish and a paper bag with a bakery sticker. She set the food on the counter and hugged Grandpa. "I brought your favorite," she said. "Apple pie." Her hands didn't shake. Her smile didn't crack. She was good at this. So was Cole. He texted me a picture of his coffee and a thinking of you heart like nothing had ever happened. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. We ate together at the same wobbly table. Dad talked about a client at the auto shop who wanted his truck to sound like a dragon. Vanessa asked me about my job at the bookstore and told a story about a difficult bride from last weekend's event. I answered in short, quiet sentences. I knew if I opened my mouth too wide, the truth would come pouring out like broken glass. After dinner, Dad helped Grandpa to the bathroom. Vanessa started to clear plates, then stopped and leaned one hip against the sink. "You okay, Lauren?" she asked softly. "You seem off." Her voice wrapped me in wool. I wanted to claw out of it. "I'm tired," I said. "You're a saint," she said. "Not everyone would do what you're doing." I looked down at her hands. Perfect nails. No tremble. I thought about that key. About the lockbox. About the way she pressed her hand on Grandpa's Bible like she was taking some private oath. I thought about the packets, the soft rip sound, the way Cole looked at her like she was a secret worth keeping. Some people would, I said. Some people wouldn't. Her eyes flicked to mine. For a beat, I wondered if she could see the whole movie playing behind my face. Then Dad came back with Grandpa, and the house filled up with talk again. Later, after everyone left and Grandpa slept, I went to the guest room and pulled out the old trunk from the attic. The wood was heavy, the corners worn smooth by hands long gone. I set it against the far wall where the bookshelf used to be. I lifted the mattress, retrieved the lockbox, and tucked it deep in the trunk under a layer of old quilts. Then I slid a different box under Grandpa's bed, one that looked the same at a glance, but had no lock and nothing inside. I put the bronze key back in the nightstand, taped to the panel the way Grandpa left it, but this time I added a hair-thin piece of clear tape across the key's bow, so fine you'd only notice if you knew to look. If the key left that tape, I would know. I also adjusted the camera. I left the air freshener on the new shelf across from the bed. Then I added a second camera, smaller, hidden inside Grandpa's old radio that still works if you smack it on the side. It faced the lockbox spot. I set both to send live notifications to my phone and autosave to the cloud. Quiet thunder. No rush. Just steps. At 11:18 p.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. Bedroom camera. My whole body went alert. I opened the feed with my thumb slick from sweat. The door eased open. Cole slipped inside alone, hat pulled low. He moved fast to the bed, dropped to his knees, and reached under. His hand hit the decoy box. He pulled it out, face expectant, then confused. He lifted the lid. Empty. He looked around, panic climbing his throat. He shoved the box back, stood, and turned toward the nightstand, pulling the drawer open. His fingers scrambled at the back panel. He found the taped key. He yanked it free, ripping the hair-thin tape I'd laid across the bow. The key snapped in his hand. He stared at it, then at the door. He didn't know where the real lockbox was. He didn't know I was watching him with a camera inside an old radio older than his dad. And then Vanessa appeared in the doorway behind him, eyes wide and blazing, whisper shouting his name. He spun, the broken key half shining under the lamp. In that same breath, I heard my grandfather's walker scrape in the hallway, slow and certain, moving toward his own bedroom. Cole froze, key in hand. Vanessa lifted both palms like she could push the whole night back into silence. The walker scraped again. It was right outside the bedroom door now. The knob turned. The door began to open. What do you think will happen next? Drop your guesses in the comments. The door creaked open halfway before stopping. Grandpa Henry's hand, steady despite his age, gripped the walker handle. His face appeared through the crack, sleepy, confused, gentle, the same face that tucked me in when I was small and scared of thunder. Vanessa's eyes widened. Cole stood frozen beside the bed, the broken key still in his palm. The air felt like glass, thin, sharp, and one wrong move could shatter everything. Grandpa squinted. "Cole," he asked softly, blinking against the lamplight. "What are you doing here this late?" Cole's throat bobbed. "Sir," Lauren said, "I was just checking something." Vanessa stepped forward quickly, her voice honey-sweet. "Dad, I told Cole to grab some documents for you. You dropped your insurance papers last week, remember?" She smiled, but her voice trembled just slightly at the end. Grandpa leaned on his walker and looked at her, then at the nightstand drawer that was slightly open. "What's that in your hand, son?" he asked, pointing to the glinting metal between Cole's fingers. Cole's hand dropped to his side. "A key." Thought it was for the drawer. Guess I was wrong." I stood in the dark hallway, watching from the edge of the living room, my heart pounding like fists on a locked door. I wanted to burst in and scream the truth, but I couldn't risk it yet. I needed proof, undeniable proof. If I played it too early, they'd twist it back on me. That's what people like them did. Vanessa walked to Grandpa and took his arm. "You shouldn't be up this late, Dad. Come on, let's get you back to bed. You need rest." But Grandpa didn't move. His eyes had gone distant. "That's my late wife's key," he murmured. "The one to her old lockbox. Why would you too?" Vanessa cut in quickly. "No, Dad, it's not that key. It's for the cabinet downstairs. Cole grabbed the wrong one, that's all." She gently turned him toward the hallway. "Come on, please, you'll catch cold." Cole tucked the broken key into his pocket and helped guide Grandpa back to his room across the hall. I could see the stiffness in Vanessa's shoulders, the way she gripped the walker handle a little too tight. When they were gone, she came back and closed Grandpa's door softly. Then she turned to Cole. "You idiot," she hissed under her breath. "You almost got us caught." Cole's jaw clenched. "You said the key would work." "Well, it didn't," she snapped. "He must have changed the box." Cole kicked the baseboard. "Then what now?" "Now," she whispered, "we stay calm. We find another way. The documents in that box could ruin everything if Lauren finds them before I do. You understand?" I pressed my hand over my mouth. "The documents? What documents?" Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe to True Revenge Stories for more shocking tales of betrayal and revenge. They left quietly through the side door. I waited 5 minutes before moving. My fingers shook as I tiptoed into Grandpa's room. He was already asleep again, his breathing soft and slow. I knelt down and checked under the bed. The decoy box was still there, untouched. I exhaled, relief flooding me so fast my knees went weak. But now I knew there was something deeper. Whatever was inside that real lockbox, Vanessa wanted it bad enough to risk everything. The next morning, the sun came through the blinds too bright, too normal for what I'd seen. Cole texted me morning, "Love, Redheart. Wanna grab breakfast?" I stared at the message for a long time before replying, "Busy with Grandpa. Rain check." At noon, Vanessa called. "Lauren, sweetie, I'll stop by later with some groceries, okay?" I said, "Sure," but my voice must have given me away, because she paused. "You sound tired," she said softly. "You're not mad at me, are you?" "I'm just processing," I replied. She laughed gently. "You're such an old soul. I'll bring you your favorite muffins." When she hung up, I sat there staring at my reflection in the microwave door. I wasn't just tired. I was angry in a way I'd never been before. But anger without strategy is just noise. So I started planning. That afternoon, I took the real lockbox from its hiding place inside the attic trunk. I set it on the dining table. The bronze was dull, the edges scratched from decades of use. I ran my fingers over it and thought about my grandmother, how she'd worked 3 jobs, how she'd built this house with Grandpa from nothing. The keyhole glinted faintly. I didn't have the key, but I had time. I searched through Grandpa's old drawers, through sewing boxes and jars of coins, until finally, inside an old envelope labeled Betty's Keepsakes, I found a tiny brass key tied to a pink ribbon. My chest tightened. It fit perfectly. The box clicked open. Inside were old letters, photos, a few legal papers, and one envelope thicker than the rest, marked "For Lauren, if anything happens to me." I froze. My name. Hands trembling, I opened it. Inside were 2 folded papers. One was a will, dated just a few months ago. The other, a handwritten note. "Lauren, if you ever find this before I pass, know that I trust you more than anyone. I changed my estate after Vanessa pressured me to sign things I didn't understand. This version protects you. Don't show her until the time is right." I swallowed hard. My eyes burned. Vanessa had been trying to steal it. That's what the box was for. The packets, the lies, all distractions. She wanted to find this will and destroy it before Grandpa could die. Because in the new one, everything came to me. The house, the land, the trust fund. And she knew it. What would you do if you were in my shoes? I'd ask anyone listening. Would you confront them now or wait until they trapped themselves? That night, I didn't sleep. Every sound in the house felt dangerous. At 2 a.m., I checked the feed again. Nothing. Just stillness. But the next morning, everything exploded. Dad showed up early, face tight. "Lauren," he said, "Vanessa told me you've been acting paranoid. She said you accused her of stealing from Dad. What's going on?" I froze. "She told you that?" He sighed. "She's worried about you. She thinks you're overwhelmed caring for Grandpa. You should have told me if you were struggling." "I'm not struggling, Dad. I'm—" The front door opened. Vanessa stepped in, holding a tray of coffee and muffins like peace offerings. "Hey," she said softly, "I just thought we could all sit down and talk." Dad rubbed his temples. "Please. No drama." Vanessa smiled sweetly. "No drama, honey." I wanted to scream. But instead, I smiled back. "Sure. Let's talk." We sat at the table. I set my phone beside my mug, recording. Vanessa sipped her coffee. "Lauren," she began, "I know you've been tired lately. Taking care of Dad isn't easy. Sometimes when we're exhausted, we imagine things." "Imagine things?" I asked. She nodded. "Like things disappearing or strange noises at night." Cole's name flashed on her phone screen upside down. She turned it face down quickly. "I know what I saw," I said quietly. "What did you see?" she asked, her tone perfectly calm. I met her eyes. "You. In Grandpa's room. With Cole." The color drained from her face. Dad's head snapped toward her. "What?" She laughed too loud. "What on earth are you talking about?" I leaned forward. "Should I show you the video, or should I show Dad first?" The silence that followed was thick enough to drown in. Vanessa's hands shook slightly as she reached for her mug. "You're bluffing," she whispered. "Am I?" I said. "Then why did you come here last night with him? Why were you holding Grandpa's key?" Dad's voice cracked. "Vanessa, is this true?" Her lips parted. No sound came out. I stood up slowly and walked to the bookshelf, grabbed the small air freshener, and placed it gently on the table. "This is the camera," I said. "Would you like to see what it caught?" Vanessa's face went pale. "You invaded my privacy," she snapped suddenly, trying to spin it back. I smiled sadly. "No, Vanessa. You invaded my family's trust." Dad sat back, stunned, hands covering his mouth. That's when Grandpa's voice came from the hallway, weak, trembling, but clear. "Is that why you wanted the key?" We all turned. He stood there in his robe, one hand on the walker, eyes shining with tears. Vanessa froze. "Dad, He lifted his hand. Not another word. I heard enough. Her lips trembled, but she stayed silent. Then he said something that made even me go cold. "Lauren, bring me the lockbox." I went to the guest room and returned with it. He took the key from my hand, opened it, and pulled out the papers. His fingers brushed the will. He looked at Vanessa. "You tried to take what wasn't yours." Her voice cracked. "I was only trying to steal," he interrupted. "You were never family. You were a lesson." Cole's name flashed again on her phone. She turned it over and slammed it on the table. Grandpa looked at me, his eyes tired but proud. "You did good, kiddo. You protected us." But before I could speak, Vanessa grabbed her purse and ran for the door. Dad called after her, but she didn't stop. She left the coffee half-drunk, the muffins untouched, and the scent of betrayal thick in the air. Dad sat there, broken, trying to understand how everything had crumbled so fast. And I thought it was over. I thought that was the end. But that night, when I checked my phone, there was a message from an unknown number. "Delete the video, or I'll make sure you regret it." No name. No photo. But the message came from Cole's area code. My blood ran cold. Because if Vanessa was desperate enough to steal from a dying man, then Cole might be desperate enough to do something worse. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak in the house sounded like footsteps. Every gust of wind against the window sounded like someone whispering my name. I kept the lights on, the curtains drawn, and my phone in my hand, rereading that text over and over. Delete the video, or I'll make sure you regret it. No name, no emoji, no punctuation, just cold intent. By sunrise, my nerves were shredded. Grandpa woke early, humming softly as he shuffled to the kitchen. He looked at me and frowned. You didn't sleep, did you? I shook my head. Not really. He patted my hand. You're safe here, Lauren. No one can hurt you in this house. But I wasn't sure. Because I knew something Grandpa didn't. People don't just threaten, they act, especially when they've been caught. Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe to True Revenge Stories for more shocking tales of betrayal and revenge. By mid-morning, Dad showed up again, his face pale from lack of sleep. She's gone, he said quietly. Vanessa packed up her things and left the house before dawn. Her phone's off. Her car's gone. I nodded. I wanted to feel relief, but all I felt was dread. Because Vanessa never did anything without a plan. If she was gone, she wasn't running. She was regrouping. Dad ran his hands over his face. I can't believe it, Lauren. After everything. She made me feel like the bad guy for not trusting her. I put a hand on his arm. You're not the bad guy, Dad. She fooled all of us. He exhaled shakily. I need a few days to clear my head. Maybe stay at the lake house. Go, I said. I'll stay here with Grandpa. We'll be fine. He hugged me tightly before he left. When the door shut, the silence felt heavier. I went straight to the kitchen, opened the camera app on my phone, and checked the cloud footage. Both cameras had recorded everything the night before. The moment Vanessa ran, the argument, Grandpa confronting her, all there, safely backed up. But then something caught my eye. The most recent file was corrupted. A short clip had been cut out, about 90 seconds long, right before Vanessa fled the house. Someone had accessed it. My stomach dropped. I checked the security feed, no break-in. No alerts. Then I remembered. Cole had installed the camera's mobile app for me when I first bought them. He had the login. He could see everything. I changed the passwords immediately, shaking as I typed. Then I called him. It went straight to voicemail. An hour later, my phone buzzed again. A video file. No message. No caption. I tapped play. It was the footage from the camera, the one I'd shown Vanessa. Only this time, the beginning had been edited. The angle shifted. The video now started after Vanessa entered the room. You couldn't see her. Only Cole. Only his voice whispering. I don't want to do this anymore, Vanessa. Her voice was faint. You already did. You think she'll forgive you. Then it cut to static. Someone was trying to twist the story to make it look like I'd framed them. By noon, the rumors started. My coworker from the bookstore texted me. Hey, is it true you set up cameras on your stepmom and boyfriend? People are saying you had a breakdown. The message made my blood boil. Vanessa and Cole were spinning the narrative before I even had time to react. I grabbed my jacket and keys. I couldn't just sit there. I needed to find them, or at least find out what they were planning. I drove to Cole's apartment. His truck wasn't in the driveway. The blinds were closed, the mailbox overflowing. But when I turned to leave, something caught my eye, a small white envelope wedged in his doorframe. It had my name on it. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single printed note. You shouldn't have told your father. You don't understand what you've done. No signature. But below it, scribbled in pen, was an address, one I recognized. My dad's auto shop. My hands went cold. Dad had said he was going to the lake house. But if Vanessa had gotten to him first. I jumped back in my car and sped toward the shop. The whole drive there, my thoughts tangled with worst-case scenarios. What if she was waiting for me? What if this wasn't just revenge, but something darker? When I arrived, the front door was unlocked. The lights were off. Dad? I called out. No answer. I stepped inside slowly, the scent of oil and metal thick in the air. Tools lay scattered on the workbench, but one thing stood out, a phone buzzing under a rag. I picked it up. It was Dad's. There were 12 missed calls from me, 3 from Vanessa, and 1 new voicemail. I pressed play. Vanessa's voice, shaking but sharp. You ruined everything, Lauren. You think your precious will changes anything? He signed the old one too. I'll find it. And when I do, you'll wish you never touched that camera. Then came a sound I'll never forget. Tires screeching, metal crunching, and a scream. The message ended. I dropped the phone, my breath gone. Dad! I shouted, running outside. Down the street, a crowd had gathered. Smoke rose from the intersection. I ran toward it, my legs barely obeying me. A silver sedan was crumpled against a utility pole. The driver's door hung open. The windshield spiderwebbed. Someone was yelling for help. Someone else called 911. When I pushed through the crowd, I saw her, Vanessa. Her face bloodied, shaking, hair tangled across her shoulders. She sat on the curb, hands covered in glass dust. And 10 feet away, my father, lying unconscious on the pavement. I screamed. Paramedics rushed in. They moved me aside. I watched as they loaded Dad onto a stretcher, shouting codes I couldn't understand. Vanessa kept whispering, it wasn't supposed to happen. He jumped in front of me. Police officers pulled her aside. I stood there in shock. They said it was an accident, that Vanessa lost control of the car turning into the intersection. That Dad tried to stop her. But I knew better. She hadn't lost control. She'd lost the game. By the time night fell, Dad was in surgery. The doctor said it was serious, but not hopeless. I sat in the hospital hallway, numb, my hands still trembling. My phone buzzed again. Another message. You still don't understand. This isn't over. No number. No name. But I didn't need one. Because I could see his reflection in the hospital window across from me, standing outside, half hidden by the parking lot shadows. Cole. He was watching me. And smiling. Do you think Cole's actions were unforgivable, or should he be given a second chance? The next few days blurred together, hospital corridors, coffee that tasted like ash, and beeping machines that sounded like ticking clocks. Dad survived the surgery, but he was in a coma. The doctors said it was wait and see. Those words felt like a knife twisting slowly. Grandpa didn't know the full truth yet. I told him there'd been an accident, that Dad was stable. His eyes dimmed, but he didn't ask more. Maybe he already knew silence was safer. At night, I slept in the chair beside Dad's bed, my head against the humming ventilator. Every time the automatic door hissed open down the hall, I flinched. Because I knew Cole was out there somewhere, watching, waiting. Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe to True Revenge Stories for more shocking tales of betrayal and revenge. On the third morning, a nurse tapped my shoulder. Someone dropped this off for you, she said. It was a plain brown envelope. No name, no return address. I opened it carefully. Inside was a flash drive and a note in familiar handwriting. If you want to know the truth, watch this alone. Vanessa. I didn't know if I was ready, but I needed answers. I went down to the hospital cafeteria, plugged the drive into my laptop, and pressed play. The video opened with Vanessa sitting in a dim motel room. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes red from crying. Behind her, the curtains were drawn tight. Lauren, she said shakily. If you're watching this, it means everything's gone wrong. I never wanted to hurt your father. He was supposed to understand. But Cole changed everything. She wiped her face and kept talking. At first, it was about money. Cole said your grandfather's estate was big enough for everyone. That if we played smart, we could move some assets around. He promised no one would get hurt. But then he found out about the will. The one that leaves everything to you. That's when things got dark. My pulse quickened. He told me he'd fix it. That if I didn't help, he'd leak photos of me, things he recorded without my permission. He said he'd ruin me, ruin your dad, and ruin you. So I played along. I thought I could buy time. I thought I could stop him. She looked straight into the camera. He has copies of everything. The footage. The texts. Even your videos. He's planning to use them to make it look like you set him up. He's dangerous, Lauren. More dangerous than you think. I'm leaving tonight. I'll turn myself in once I'm safe. But you need to protect your grandfather. He's next. The screen went black. For a full minute, I couldn't move. My mind spun. Protect Grandpa? From what? When I finally stood, my knees nearly gave out. I ran up the hospital stairs to Dad's room, heart hammering. Grandpa was sitting by the bed, holding Dad's hand and humming an old tune. "Pop," I gasped. "We need to go home." He frowned. "Why? What's wrong?" I need to check something. Please." He nodded slowly. "All right, sweetheart. Let's go." We drove back in silence. The house looked normal from the outside, calm, quiet, familiar. But the second I stepped inside, something felt off. The smell of gasoline hit me first, then the faint sound of static. I froze. The living room TV was on, showing only white noise. The lights flickered. And on the coffee table, a small red lighter. Grandpa whispered, "Lauren." I looked toward the hallway. A shadow moved past the guest room door. "Stay here," I whispered, my voice trembling. I grabbed the closest thing, a lamp, and crept forward. The door to Grandpa's room was open. The floor creaked beneath my feet. I peeked inside. Everything was overturned, drawers pulled out, blankets shredded, the air thick with that sharp gasoline smell. The radio camera was gone. Then, from the corner, a voice. "Took you long enough." Cole stepped out from behind the curtain, smiling that same lazy smile that used to make me melt. Only now it made my stomach turn. "Where's Vanessa?" I asked, trying to steady my voice. He tilted his head. "You saw her message, didn't you? That little performance." He chuckled. "She's not as innocent as she looks. What do you want?" He walked closer. "You ruined everything, Lauren. You had to play detective, didn't you? All you had to do was delete the footage." I tightened my grip on the lamp. "You tried to blackmail her. You used my grandfather's house to cover your tracks." Cole's smile faded. "You don't understand. There's more money here than you could imagine. Stocks, land titles, things your dad didn't even know about. Vanessa and I were supposed to take it, sell it, and disappear. But you," he shook his head slowly. "You had to be the hero." "Grandpa's money?" I said quietly. "You did all this for money?" He smirked. "People kill for less." He reached into his pocket. I stepped back, my pulse spiking. For a second, I thought it was a weapon. But it wasn't. It was a small USB drive, the same model as the one Vanessa had left me. He tossed it onto the bed. "Everything's on there. All the videos, all the files. One copy. The rest are in the cloud. You delete mine, I delete yours. That's the deal." "I'm not making a deal with you," I said. He laughed softly. "You think you have a choice?" Before I could answer, Grandpa's voice came from the hallway, strong, angry, alive. "Put that down." Cole turned, startled. Grandpa stood there with his old hunting rifle, the one mounted above the fireplace since before I was born. His hands didn't even shake. "Sir," Cole said carefully, raising his hands. "Let's talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about," Grandpa said. "You came into my home, hurt my son, and lied to my granddaughter." Cole stepped forward. "He's not dead, is he? So maybe we can still fix this." "Move one more step," Grandpa said, "and I'll remind you why they used to call me the best shot in Montgomery County." For a moment, no one breathed. Then Cole smiled, slow and poisonous. "You won't shoot an unarmed man." Grandpa didn't answer. He just pulled the trigger. The gun clicked. Empty. Cole grinned. "Guess you forgot the bullets, old man." He lunged. I swung the lamp, hitting him across the shoulder. He staggered back, cursing. The lighter flew out of his pocket and hit the floor, rolling under the dresser. I grabbed Grandpa's arm. "Run." We rushed toward the hallway, but behind us came the sound of shattering glass. Cole had thrown the lamp into the wall. Sparks flew. Then the smell. Gasoline. A second later, flames licked up the curtains. I screamed. Grandpa pushed me toward the door. "Go." "No, not without you. Lauren." I hesitated, just long enough to see Cole standing in the smoke, coughing, his face twisted in fury. "You're gonna regret this," he shouted. The fire swallowed his words. Grandpa and I stumbled outside into the night, choking on smoke. The flames roared higher, orange and furious against the dark. I called 911 with shaking hands. By the time the fire trucks arrived, the house was almost gone. We watched in silence as everything we'd built, everything Grandpa had loved, turned to ash. And when it was over, they found only one thing in the ruins that hadn't burned. The bronze lockbox. Half melted, but still closed. By the way, where are you watching from? Drop your city or state in the comments. I'd love to know how far these stories travel. A week later, the police called. They'd searched the property. No body was found. No Cole. No sign of him anywhere. They said he probably ran. But I knew better. Because the night after the fire, I woke up to a noise outside Grandpa's new apartment. A faint knock. When I looked through the peephole, I saw it, a small envelope taped to the door. Inside was a charred USB drive. And a note written in black marker. Miss me? I didn't move for a long time. The envelope felt heavier than it should have, like it carried every bad decision that had led here. The note, 2 words, miss me, looked almost playful, written in Cole's sharp, confident handwriting. The kind that used to make me smile when it spelled my name. But now? It made my stomach turn. Grandpa was still asleep in the other room, breathing slow and even. I didn't want him to wake and see the fear on my face. So I locked the door, sat on the floor by the couch, and stared at the burned USB in my hand. Half of it was melted, warped from the fire. But the drive still worked when I plugged it into my laptop. The screen flickered. A folder opened, proof. Inside were video clips, photos, and scanned documents. I clicked the first video. It was me, sleeping on the couch. The angle was from above, the ceiling vent. Cole had installed another camera in Grandpa's house without me knowing. I watched myself turn, unaware, clutching a blanket while the timestamp rolled across the corner, 3 days before the first lubricant packet disappeared. The next clip was worse, Vanessa and Cole together, but edited again to look like I had set them up. The audio was altered, their voices replaced with deep fakes of mine saying, I caught them, they deserve this, and I'll ruin them both. My hands trembled. He was framing me, not just as a witness, but as the villain. The last file was a video taken the night of the fire. The camera was handheld, shaky. You could hear crackling flames, coughing, and then Cole's voice, hoarse but alive. You think I died in your fire, Lauren? You think you can burn the truth? You can't burn what I have. Then the screen went black. My laptop fan whirred loudly, filling the silence. My whole body shook. If he had this footage, if he sent it out, everyone would think I set the fire. That I was the unstable one. And after the rumors Vanessa started, it wouldn't even sound far-fetched. I slammed the laptop shut. I needed help. Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe to True Revenge Stories for more shocking stories of betrayal and revenge. Asterisk. The next morning, I went straight to the police. The same officer who'd handled the fire report, Officer Reynolds, sat across from me, skeptical eyes half hidden behind his mustache. So, let me get this straight, he said slowly. Your ex-boyfriend, who supposedly died in a house fire, is now sending you videos to frame you for arson? Yes, I said, my voice shaking. He's alive. He sent me this. I slid the USB across the desk. He plugged it in, watched a few seconds, then leaned back. These could have been made by anyone. There's no metadata left, looks like whoever made them scrubbed the timestamps. Could even be AI generated. I clenched my fists. That doesn't mean it's fake. He sighed. Ma'am, we'll file a report, but unless there's a direct threat or a confirmed location, there's not much we can do. Change your locks. Stay somewhere safe. I walked out feeling smaller than ever. When I got back to Grandpa's apartment, he was sitting at the table, holding a cup of tea like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. He looked up at me. They called. Said the insurance claim went through. You'll get a payout for the fire damage. I nodded absently. Then he added softly, he's still out there, isn't he? I froze. Grandpa's voice dropped lower. That boy's not finished. You can't wait for him to come to you. What do you mean? I asked. He leaned forward, eyes sharp despite his age. You said he likes to record things, right? People like that, they leave trails. We just have to find one. His words lit something inside me, a tiny spark of courage through the fog of fear. That night, I set up 2 new cameras inside the apartment, not hidden this time. Visible. Bright red recording lights blinking like warnings. I wanted Cole to see them if he came. Then I went online, using every bit of the computer skills Cole had once bragged about teaching me. I searched through cloud storage leaks, metadata traces, any clue tied to his old accounts. Hours passed. Nothing. Then, just after midnight, a folder appeared on my shared drive, one I didn't create. The name, forgive me. My heart skipped. I opened it. Inside was a single file, a short audio recording. Cole's voice. Lauren, I didn't start that fire. You did. I froze. You kicked the lamp, remember? It hit the curtain. You panicked. You just don't want to admit it. But it's okay, I forgive you. My stomach turned. You don't need to hide anymore. You'll see me soon. I promise. The recording ended with the faint sound of a car door shutting. Outside the apartment window, headlights flashed once, briefly, then vanished. By the way, where are you watching from? Drop your city or state in the comments. I'd love to know how far these stories travel. The next day, I changed the locks again. I called Officer Reynolds, told him about the recording. He promised to send a patrol car, but no one came. Maybe they thought I was losing it. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The shadows under the door seemed to move. I checked every room twice. Nothing. Around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed with a new text. No words. Just a photo. A picture of my dad's hospital room. He was still in a coma, hooked up to wires, pale, defenseless. And in the reflection of the glass door, I saw him, Cole, standing there in a black hoodie, camera in hand, smiling straight at me through the lens. I ran to the bedroom, grabbed my keys, and screamed for Grandpa to stay inside. I drove to the hospital, my heart beating out of rhythm. When I got there, the nurse said no one had been in or out for hours. But on Dad's bedside table, someone had left a white daisy. The same kind Cole used to bring me after our first fights, a flower that meant, let's start over. I stood there, tears burning my eyes, the petals trembling in my hand. I didn't know what scared me more, that he wanted to hurt me, or that part of him still thought we had something worth forgiving. The daisy wilted overnight. By morning, it looked like a small apology that had run out of breath. I stood by Dad's hospital bed, watching the sunlight crawl across the floor, and told myself it would end today. The fear, the waiting, the cameras, all of it. Cole had gone too far. He wasn't going to stop until I did something. I took the daisy, pressed it flat between my notebook pages, and walked out of the hospital for what I hoped would be the last time. Back at Grandpa's apartment, he was already awake, reading the newspaper with his glasses halfway down his nose. He looked up. You're not eating again. I will, I said. After I do something. He folded the paper and gave me that look, the one that meant be careful. You've got that fire in your eyes again, kiddo. Don't let it burn you too. Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe to True Revenge Stories for more shocking stories of betrayal and revenge. I started with the phone number that sent me the picture of Dad's room. I traced it through an app Cole once used to spoof calls. Most of the trail was dead ends, rerouted IPs, fake accounts, but one ping stood out. A signal near an abandoned motel 15 minutes outside Dayton. Room 108. The same room from Vanessa's video. I called Officer Reynolds again. I found him, I said. Or at least where he's been. He sighed. Ms. Monroe, you need to let us handle it. Don't go there. I just need to see it, I said. To make sure he's really gone. Lauren. But I'd already hung up. The motel looked forgotten. The sign flickered, one letter missing, and the parking lot was littered with bottles and cigarette ends. I parked my car 2 spaces away from the entrance, my pulse in my throat. Room 108's curtains were drawn. I walked up slowly, one hand gripping my phone, the other holding a can of pepper spray so tight it dented. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Cole, I know you're in there. Silence. Then footsteps. Soft, deliberate. The door opened halfway. But it wasn't Cole. It was Vanessa. Her hair was cropped short now, her eyes hollow, her wrist in a brace. You shouldn't have come, she whispered. Where's Cole? I asked. She stepped aside. You should see for yourself. I hesitated, then walked in. The room smelled of smoke and metal. The blinds were half open, letting in thin streaks of light. On the table sat 2 laptops, both open. the same model Cole used for editing. The screens played looping videos of me, of Grandpa, of Dad. Clips spliced together with timestamps and fake headlines. Local woman suspected in house fire.